20 million people once begged for a ticket to the same concert, and only 18,000 got in. A giant flying pig once shut down London's biggest airport, and a band once pulled 300,000 people to a single show. These are 12 rock and roll facts that sound completely made up, except every single one is 100% real. And number one is a world record that nobody thought was even possible. Stick around, because it only gets crazier as we count down.
Welcome back to the channel, where music history gets way stranger than fiction. Today, we're counting down 12 of the most unbelievable true facts in rock. Accidental fires, tax dodges, oil money, and a record that still hasn't been broken. If you love this stuff, do me one quick favor and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, let's start the countdown.
Coming in at number 12, ACDC's Angus Young and that famous schoolboy uniform. Here's the twist. When he first put it on, in April 1974 at Victoria Park in Sydney, he wasn't a school kid at all. He was 19 and had already left school. The idea came from his older sister, Margaret, who thought his baby face made the costume hilarious. So he borrowed his young nephew's actual school blazer, which only fit because Angus was tiny. He was so terrified of bottles being thrown that he never stopped moving, and that fear literally invented his manic stage act. 50 years later, he still wears the uniform on stage in his late 60s, making him, officially, the oldest schoolboy in rock history. But that's a warm-up.
Because the next one is a song you've heard 1,000 times that's secretly about a building burning to the ground.
Number 11. That 4-note riff everyone learns first on guitar? Smoke on the Water is a literal news report of a disaster Deep Purple watched with their own eyes. On December 4th, 1971, they were in Montreux, Switzerland to record an album at the casino. The night before their session, Frank Zappa was playing the same venue when someone in the crowd fired a flare gun straight into the wooden ceiling. The entire casino complex burned to the ground. Deep Purple watched the smoke drift across Lake Geneva from their hotel window, Smoke on the Water, and turned the whole catastrophe into one of the most famous riffs ever written. The line, "Funky Claude running in and out," is a real man, festival boss Claude Nobbs, who ran back inside to pull fans out. Every word is true. But it gets stranger. Speaking of weird money, wait until you hear how our next band actually got paid.
Number 10. In the late 1970s, ABBA sold huge numbers of records behind the Iron Curtain. But there was a problem. The Soviet ruble was worthless outside the USSR. You literally couldn't take it out of the country. So the Soviets paid ABBA a different way, in commodities. Mostly barrels of crude oil. Their management would take the oil, sell it on the international market, and that's how the four of them got their royalties. There are even reports they accepted fruit and vegetables at one point. At their peak, ABBA's exports were supposedly second in Sweden only to Volvo. Think about that. One of the biggest pop groups on Earth getting paid in oil tankers. But the next one might be the most unlucky break that turned into the biggest win. This next band lost an entire finished album, and it might have been the best thing that ever happened to them. Number 9. In the summer of 2003, Green Day had just finished recording a brand new album called Cigarettes and Valentines. 16 songs, nearly done. Then, the master tapes were stolen right out of their Oakland studio, Jingletown, and vanished. Every band on Earth would just re-record it, right? Not Green Day. They took it as a sign the record wasn't good enough and threw the whole thing out.
Starting completely from scratch, they instead wrote a punk rock opera. That album became American Idiot, 6 times platinum in the US, somewhere around 16 million copies worldwide, and a Grammy for Best Rock Album. If those tapes had never been stolen, one of the biggest rock albums of the 2000s might never have existed. And speaking of things going hilariously wrong, number 8, and this one is pure comedy. For their 1983 Born Again tour, Black Sabbath wanted a Stonehenge stage set. Someone wrote the measurements down in meters instead of feet. So instead of a 15-foot prop, the company built one about 15 meters tall, nearly 50 feet, 3 times the size they asked for. When it arrived, Tony Iommi said it was as big as the real Stonehenge. It was too tall to fit inside almost any venue. In one gig, the stones were literally scraping the ceiling. Eventually, they gave up and left the thing rotting on the docks in New York. And here's the kicker. This is real life copying the movie This Is Spinal Tap, which did the same joke in reverse. A Stonehenge so tiny you could step over it. Geezer Butler summed it up perfectly. People ask if I've seen Spinal Tap. I say, seen it? I lived it. Now, let's talk records that actually mattered.
Number 7 cost almost nothing to make and dethroned the king of pop.
Number 7. In 1991, an unknownish band from Seattle recorded an album on a budget of just $65,000. Pocket change in the music industry. The label expected maybe a couple 100,000 sales, tops. That album was Nevermind. It started slow, but by Christmas of 91, it was flying off shelves at around 400,000 copies a week. And in January 1992, this scrappy, cheap little grunge record knocked Michael Jackson's Dangerous off the #1 spot on the Billboard chart. The most cheaply made album in the room beat the biggest pop star on the planet and basically flipped a switch on the entire 1990s. All right, quick pause, because I've got a question for you.
Halftime. Then we head into the top 6 and it gets insane. Okay, if you're enjoying these, do me one quick favor. Hit that subscribe button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you'd think. And it's free. And while you're at it, tell me in the comments, which fact so far shocked you the most? A grown man in a school uniform? The riff is a real fire report. Someone stole the whole album? Or paid in barrels of oil? Drop the number below. All right. Top 6. Let's go. Number 6. Picture recording an album with your ex. Now imagine the entire band is your ex's. That was Fleetwood Mac in 1976, making Rumours. John and Christine McVie were getting divorced, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were violently splitting up, and drummer Mick Fleetwood was going through his own divorce, while quietly having an affair with Stevie Nicks. They were writing brutal breakup songs about each other, and then had to sit in the same room and perform them, night after night. Somehow, all that poison became gold. Rumours has sold over 40 million copies and is one of the best-selling albums of all time. As Stevie Nicks put it, the studio was the only thing keeping them from falling apart. Now, money games. Number 5 is going to make you angry. Trust me.
Number 5. Over roughly 20 years, the Rolling Stones earned about £242 million. That's around $450 million. And thanks to a Dutch holding company called Promo Group, set up by their financial guru, Prince Rupert Lowenstein, they pay tax on all of that at a rate of about 1.5%. Not 15, 1.5. Dutch law let royalties flow through that company almost tax-free. So the guys who wrote Gimme Shelter found the ultimate shelter. To put that in perspective, that's a lower tax rate than almost any working person watching this video pays right now. And they did it completely legally for decades. Okay, from the smartest move in rock to the dumbest accident. But number 4 literally caused a national emergency. Number 4. For the cover of their 1977 album Animals, Pink Floyd built a giant inflatable pig about 40 feet long and floated it over Battersea Power Station in London for a photo shoot. Day 1, they hired a marksman to shoot it down if it broke loose. Day 2, nobody told the marksman to come back. Big mistake. A gust of wind ripped the pig free, and this enormous flying pig climbed to 30,000 feet, right into the flight path of Heathrow Airport. Pilots were reporting a pig at cruising altitude. Flights were actually grounded. The Civil Aviation Authority had to warn pilots to watch out for a flying pig. It finally drifted across the country and landed in a farmer's field in Kent, terrifying a herd of cows. You genuinely cannot make this up. And that leads us into the top 3, where the numbers get ridiculous. Number 3 drew a crowd bigger than an entire country's population. Number 3. In February 1981, Queen became one of the first massive rock bands to play stadiums in South America. And in Buenos Aires, Argentina, at Vélez Sarsfield Stadium, they pulled a crowd of 300,000 people to a single concert. That's the largest concert crowd in Argentine history. 300,000. That's more people than the entire population of Iceland, all in one place, for one band. And this was during a brutal military dictatorship, when the government was genuinely afraid of that many young people gathering at once. Freddie Mercury standing in front of a human ocean that size, it's almost impossible to picture. But 2 more to go, and number 2 is a record that has never been beaten. Number 2 happened 60 years ago, and no one has done it since. Number 2. On the Billboard Hot 100 dated April 4th, 1964, the Beatles didn't just have the number 1 song in America. They had numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The entire top 5, all at the same time. Can't Buy Me Love, Twist and Shout, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and Please Please Me. And it didn't stop there. That same week, they held 12 positions on the chart at once. Think about how insane that is. Even in the streaming era, with artists flooding the charts, no one has ever swept the entire top 5 of the Hot 100 since. 60 years later, it's still the most dominant week any act has ever had. Which brings us, finally, to number 1. And number 1 is the record I promised you at the very start. Here it is.
Number 1. Remember the record I teased at the very beginning? Here it is. On December 10th, 2007, Led Zeppelin reunited for one single show at the O2 Arena in London. Their first full concert in 27 years, since drummer John Bonham died in 1980. There were around 20,000 tickets. And the demand? 20 million people applied. 20 million for 20,000 seats. The website was getting 80,000 applications per minute before it crashed. Let that sink in. Nearly every single person in Australia could have requested a ticket, and there would still be more demand than seats. Guinness World Records made it official.
The highest demand for tickets for one music concert in history. Tickets that cost £125 were reselling for thousands. That is the single most wanted concert ticket of all time. And it's the perfect number one. There's your record. There's your payoff.
So there you go. 12 rock facts that sound completely fake, but are all 100% real. If I had to pick a top 3, it's gotta be Led Zeppelin's 20 million ticket requests, the Beatles owning the entire top 5, and Queen's 300,000 person crowd. But I want to hear from you. Which one shocked you the most? Tell me in the comments. I read them all. If you enjoyed this, smash subscribe and go watch this next video right here. I promise it's just as wild. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.